welcome to Fiber Town. My name is Emily, and this is episode 181. It's the 10th of February, 2017. And I just have to ask, when you say the word February, do you have to stop and think about how to say it? Because I do every time I say it, which is not often, usually just in that particular month. But this is maybe the fourth time I've tried to start this podcast, so I've said it a number of times, and now I'm second-guessing myself. Just, the typical ridiculousness. So welcome. I think I've said all the things I need to. You can find me on Ravelry. I'm Chain of Fools there. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Fibertown with an R-E. You can find me on Etsy, Fibertown. And I will put the links in the YouTube thingamajig, and you can find me. So, speaking of the Etsy shop, was I going to speak of the Etsy shop here? What was I going to say about it? No, never mind. I was going to talk about the reflecting light mittens pattern that I released last week, and thank you if you have checked it out and if you have purchased a copy. It goes a ways towards supporting the podcast, and I feel that way about podcasters in general who put out a pattern. Sarah Pomegranate always says this, the Yarns of Yinhu, and when she publishes a pattern, and she has lovely ones. The letterpress was her most recent. It's a really great way to support a podcaster who's paying hosting fees for the podcast. So, so check it out. There is still a Fibertown viewer coupon, FT1, lowercase, and that's the numeral 1. And that is good until, I think, the end of the day on the 15th, so you can get it for yourself or a friend for Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day, as the case may be. And I've been wearing my mittens a lot this week. Sorry, I'm knitting a hat ribbing here as I talk to you. There are 3 sizes available in that pattern, so check it out. I hope you like it. I think they're a fun knit. And it's kind of exciting seeing people start to knit them on social media. Okay, Hand-spun winter cal. I hope you guys liked the montage I put together last week of, I think I got all of the products, photos rather, from the chat thread. If I didn't get yours, I'm really sorry, but people are still posting amazing things, and the hand-spun winter cal is going on through the end of winter. I typically have a co-host who comes around at least once during the podcast, so hopefully, since I'm in this comfy setting, she will visit. We shall see. All right, well, speaking of hand-spun and hand-spun projects, I have one right here. This is a crochet blanket. Let me show you where I left off last time. I put a marker, just have to find it. Here it is. Yes, I knit some sparkly scraps and rainbow scraps. And it's getting done. Ooh, I really love the pop of yellow down there. And this is entirely hand-spun scraps. Pretty awesome, right? So this is a granny stripe blanket. I'm using the Attic 24 recipe, although I would say my selvages, they're not too pretty. And I don't really care. I'll put a black border on it or a gray border when it's all said and done, and nobody will know unless I lay the giant thing out flat, and that will rarely happen. So yes, making square things does not seem to be my forte, either in quilting especially, or crocheting. I can sew garments, but I tell you, straight lines and top stitching are super challenging. Okay, neither here nor there, right? So let's talk about works in progress. This is a hat brim out of Malabrigo, worsted, which is a singles merino, I believe is the term. And, it's Malabrigo worsted. What is the colorway of this one? Vermilion, I think. And I'm knitting brims for my fiber campers. They're coming next week. Sorry, I'm looking at okay. Do you really care? Yeah, you might. Let me see. I'll take this out. It is vermilion. So I do the ribbing for my students, and these are people with no knitting experience whatsoever, and I just hit myself in the face. Super talented. So I do just 10 rows of ribbing, and then I hand it over to them and teach them the knit stitch. So I feel like it's easier for beginners to learn if they have some fabric to hold on to, if they don't have to worry about casting on right away and learning that and learning the purl stitch. I do teach them that, but once they've already finished their hat. So, and they're starting on their second project. I have one more to do after this. So I have done 4 ribbings already. So yeah, I'm not going to show you them all because hopefully my students will podcast next week and show you themselves. So I have 5 young women and a young man coming. I know some of them because I've been in Spain with them on the Spain trip. And typically I tend to get older students. The first year I did this, I got all seniors, and they're a lot of fun. This year, I think I have mostly juniors, but I couldn't tell you for sure. Last year, I had some younger students. So I'm very excited. They come. My husband brings them to the house, brings them here from school, and we craft. We have a dye day. I teach them a little bit of weaving and spinning, and they knit a hat, and then they cast on a second project. We go to a yarn store. My husband cooks for us. I do a baked good every day too, so I'll make like maple oatmeal scones. I make a baklava from scratch, which is delicious, and I do it with pistachios. And what else do I make? Usually pain au chocolat, which I get the Trader Joe's chocolate croissants. They're pretty darn good. You proof them overnight and then do an egg wash and bake them. We drink tea and coffee, and sometimes we watch movies, or mostly we just listen to music and chat and knit. It's an exhausting week for the teacher, I won't lie. So, but that's coming up, and I am preparing for it, and this year I'm going to have them do some eco-printing on silk, because I discovered that, and I just think it's so exciting to unroll those silk scarves and see what they look like. So anyway, back to works in progress. I have the hat brims, I have the crochet blanket. I also have one sock. Uh-oh, where is it? Okay. In a Jan B. Smiley bag. I love these bags. This is my first Mercury sock. And there it is. Now this is a free pattern by Kim Drotar. And I really wasn't feeling love for the lace pattern. No fault of it, the lace pattern. But after I turned the heel and did the heel gusset, and I do my bottom of the heel gusset, riverbed gusset. Not my gusset. I've seen a class taught on this at festivals before, but the person or the pattern that really introduced me to this was the author of the Breaking Heart Socks, and that was Christy, and I can never remember which last name she goes by, but Breaking Heart Socks. And I think she has a free tutorial for this heel as well. Anyway, I realized after I did the gusset that I had been doing the lace pattern incorrectly. So there are two rows of the lace pattern that have yarn overs and increases, or I should say yarn overs and decreases. And then I was just thinking, there's a purl stitch that separates the columns of lace. I was just thinking that the rows that don't have the increases and decreases were just plain, but no, you do have to do a purl stitch in those particular places as part of the repeat. So I totally spaced on that and didn't realize until the foot of the sock. So I decided to include the purl at that point, and it makes a big difference in the stretchiness of the fabric. It just reminds me how amazing and how interrelated, people are texting me, stop, how interrelated stitch pad, or how changing one small thing can completely change the stitch pattern. And in this case, adding the purl, as I said, made it a lot stretchier than on the cuff. Sort of stretchy, much more stretchy. Oops. So, and I kind of liked knitting the pattern more with that purl. It gave it more movement and stretch. I have to use the word stretch again. So what I also realized is that, see how there's a stair step of the lace pattern? That was an after the fact design modification. I had started to forget to do the lace pattern over here, and this is on the foot only. You know, obviously I didn't do it all the way around like I did on the leg. So I decided to sort of do a stair step of the lace pattern. Kind of like it. Now I have to reproduce it on the other sock. So the yarn is Kaleidoscope Yarns and Aphrodite's Tears and Mercury Sock Pattern. So yeah, next ones should be cast on very soon. Now I'm also making mitts like the ones that I am currently wearing. And these are, I wear these so much. I wear them so much. These are sort of gauntlets, I call them. They don't have, you know, they're very minimal shaping, just a wee bit at the smallest part of my forearm. And these were made out of a Noro, a Curion sock, and a Sauber Ball singles gradient. So the white, black, and charcoal. And then it's alternated with this amazing Curion colorway. And yeah, so I cast on, where are they? Let me find them. Hello, hello. Okay, there. So I'm doing the same thing with a mustache Harry Potter, the sorting hat colorway. I just love it. I just love Harry Potter. You just see my Harry Potter books over here. I'm currently rereading 5. I've been rereading all of them. As I've said before, I love to reread my favorite books. So yeah, sorting hat. And these will go on my wrists as well. And I have enough left of every ball to make some roasty rollers out of them, which I will also do. Now, this is the OCD, she calls them the OCD skeins, and they are 2 small skeins broken up, and they really do match. Like, I'm terrible at matching. No brainer, super easy, very fun. So, this will probably be my knitting next week when I have to stop and interrupt my knitting constantly to help teenagers with theirs. What else do I want to show you? Let's see. I think the last thing is this. This is the lovage. This is where it hangs out. I have to sit here and concentrate on it. Oh, you guys. My color work is just my tensioning. It looks awesome right here. In real life, it's a bit lumpier. Oh, but my gosh, the lighting, it looks so good. So this is the Lovage sweater. Oops, and I'm dropping stitches. The Lovage sweater by Marie Wallin. And I totally copied Fruity Knitting. I saw Andrea from Fruity Knitting making this, and I required it in my life. There, I really love it. I am reverse engineering it. I'm going top down because gauge. Yeah, and the most of the body is a very boring beige, which is this Manx mohair blend from Blacker, which I adore. And I got it at the Woolly Thistle, and there's Cornish tin, and there's a Romney from New England, and there's a cochineal dyed pink, and there's Jameson and Smith, and yeah, it's great stuff. There's a Harrisville Shetland. I think that's this green right here. So at any rate, yes, reverse engineering, and I think when I finish this chart down here, I maybe have, I don't know, 12 more rows, then I will divide off for the sleeves. And I feel like if there's less risk knitting down a plain body and just adjusting the stitch size to fit me, because it's a very tight gauge. I didn't want to go bottom up. Honestly, I didn't want to knit the boring parts first. It's funny how in stranded knitting there's just a lot less give. Isn't that the truth? A lot less stretch. So yeah, it's my ability to predict how the fabric is going to behave. I don't know, it just is not quite the same as what I'm used to. So I'm hoping I have more control over how it fits this way. So that's the Lovage Marie Wallin. It's an amazing pattern. Really, really gorgeous, and I'm loving playing with the colors. So on to spinning. I do have a finished, I finished the minis that I spun from Hobbledehoy, Yak Merino Silk Bamboo Blend. And they went in the Etsy shop and they sold pretty much very quickly. So very excited those went out to their new home, and I hope they have a good life. Now I have some more spinning. This is a fractal spun Falkland from Highland Handmaids, the Palmer colorway, and I have 340 yards. And yeah, it's not been finished and washed and that sort of thing. That's an accurate color representation. I think this will be lovely woven. I don't think I'll knit it. It's not colors I particularly want to wear, but I think it would make a beautiful fabric, and I'm interested to see how the fractal plays out in weaving. So in the fractal spin, I divided the braid in half vertically, and then I spun the first half continuously, and it makes for long color repeats, and then the second half I divided into 3, and so that makes for shorter color repeats, and that becomes the second ply. So you get a lot of barber pole and marling, but you also get longer repeats or some repeats of a solid color. Okay, so the Romney I showed last week from Brutus. I got a question about it. Someone asked me, I think on the episode thread, and I'm sorry I didn't write down your name, how I got these nests, cute little nests, and the person who asked said she had been using not a hackle, but she had been combing and then pulling through a diz. I've done that off of my drum carder. In fact, that's how I prepared the wool for this sweater I'm wearing, which is, I'll just tell you now, this is the Enchanted Mesa. Something's tickling me. Modified by Stephen West, and I made this out of a Jacob fleece. And I tend to wear this collar sort of like this, and sort of like a rash going on there. Anyway, I wear this collar like this. I don't have the cowl, obviously, and this was one fleece, and I separated the colors. So I had a sort of, you can see in the sleeve, so a white, a chocolate brown, and then the heathered, where the two colors grew together. Anyway, love this sweater. I have 2 of them. This is definitely the more wearable one. The other one is just crazy colors, but I love them both. My son complimented me on it this morning. It was nice. Yeah, so how do I get the long poles of combed top and then make it into a nest? I thought I would do a demonstration. Hopefully I will do it and insert it here, of me combing some Romney, and just give you guys a little visual of how I pull the nest, how I pull the roving off the combs, or not the roving, the top, how I pull the top off the combs and make those little nests. Hey guys, I have my Valkyrie combs. I have a few locks of Romney from Brutus. There's one crimpy lock. This one is significantly longer than this one. All right, we're gonna comb them together. We're just gonna throw caution to the wind. It's no big deal. So I have my first comb on my knee, and I'm gonna take the butt end, so the end of the lock that was shorn from the sheep, and I'm gonna just add it onto my comb. Now, I guess it's called loading the combs, I believe. I don't want too much of the wool to be behind the comb. It makes it harder to comb. So there's the other butt end. I'm going to do the same with that. I've got my 2 little locks. So I start combing with the empty comb. So I'm going to go, you're gonna load the comb's butt end of the lock to tip end. So I start combing, and then, so on this right hand comb, I now have the tip of the wool lock locked into the tines. These Valkyrie combs have 2 rows of tines. You can see there. So I'm going to transfer it now. Most of the wool is now on here. So I'm going to transfer it back to this comb. So now I'm putting the butt end essentially back on. So you can see how everything's still pretty much aligned. Sometimes I flip them over just for variety and getting all of the bits off. But essentially, you know, I'm keeping the butt end going back onto the comb as it was before. And sometimes I help that the last little bits off by just applying some pressure there. So now most of it's gone from this comb. Very little combing waste from Brutus. He's been a gem to comb. I'm not going to do any more passes than that. It's just really not necessary. So what I do to pull off my nests, I don't use a diz. You know, I don't have a clamp for my combs. I basically, you know, this is the back. There's a little bit, that's not too bad. Maybe a tad bit more than I would like on the back, but I don't really know how to prevent that. So I'm going to sort of bring the wool mass up to the middle of the combs, and I hold it on my knee, and I start to pull. Sometimes you can pull it at an angle. Just get a feel for how much you want to sort of draft out at a time. This is the way I do my combing and nest making. I really have no idea if this is the legal way, but this is my way, and I think it works beautifully. So, boom. I've got a little bit of waste, not a lot. I'm going to put this down so it won't impale anyone. And remember, I got a few neps right there, but not too many. I can just take those out if I wanted to. But remember, I had the butt end facing up. There is my strip of fluffy, fluffy top. So I'm going to remember the butt end. I can even draft this out a little bit more if I want. But I don't want to draft it out too much. So I keep the butt end here and I just wind it around my hand. Sometimes I draft out in the middle of the winding just to make things more even. So basically this helps me remember how I wind, piece of my own hair in there, how I wind my nests. I always have the tip end stuck in is the middle end. It's the end that's stuck in the middle. So I wind and wind and wind. I take that tip end and I pull it through. So that way I know, there's my nest. I know that when I undo my nest, that the tip end is coming out from the middle. And I try to spin butt to tip. So as I open my nest, that's just a way for me to remember how I set this whole thing up. I take a little bit out of the middle, pull it out, and I remember spin from the other end. I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys liked seeing the combing. I find it incredibly soothing, and it makes this gorgeous, gorgeous top. Bye! So I have some weaving, and let me show you. I also have some sewing with some weaving. Let me show you the sewing first. This is a plaid I made a while ago, and I've just been making drawstrings without the drawstring bags without the drawstrings yet, with some of my weaving. So that's kind of fun. And then I put a skein of Miss Babs Yowza on my loom. I have a 15-inch Cricut rigid heddle loom, and I had tried to knit with this yarn. This is Yowza in the Diva colorway. I really hated how it looked. I really didn't enjoy it. But I think it makes an amazing sort of pixely kind of plaid. Yeah, beautiful. So it's the superwash merino, the Diva colorway. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of knitting garments out of this kind of stuff anymore. I used to love the process of knitting variegated yarns, and I've fallen out of love. But I think this makes an amazing woven fabric. I have not tied off the bottoms at all, made a tassel, so kind of being ginger with it. But I made a fairly wide weave with this, and I think it makes an amazing, amazing wrap. It's about 90 inches long. before the tassels. So yeah, I've got to finish it, I've got to wash it, and it makes a really pretty woven fabric. So acquisitions, let me show you. I have acquired no yarn this week. That's okay. But I did acquire a painting. My painting looks similar to this one. I posted a picture on Instagram. And this is Mary Lee Harris Art. And there's her website. She is also on Instagram, Mary Lee Harris Art. This is my second piece of hers. I'm so excited. And it's going to be hung up in my family room this weekend. Check her out. She is an amazing artist. My other painting of hers has a bird's nest. I'm looking at it right now. It's different from this, but I just love it. It's sort of a mixed, is it mixed media style? But this one of the leaves is just gorgeous. It's 30 by 30 and it's very textured. You know, the paint is, especially the background, is quite textured and beautiful, and I love her. Okay, so the last thing today is an acquisition. I heard about this book on the Woven Road podcast. I think I've mentioned that. Yeah, I've definitely mentioned that one. It's Elizabeth Wayland Barber. Now, I have read the first 2 chapters, 70 pages. Extremely interesting to me. Extremely interesting. And I would like to do like lessons out of this. I think I will possibly use some of this next week to talk about with my students. Yeah, good stuff. And it's, I have a background a long time ago in anthropology and archaeology. And this is just fascinating to me. And it's very relevant and applicable. And yeah, I actually, it brought to mind a lot of it, some stuff I did when I was about 21 years old. I don't know if I've spoken about it. It's possible. I've been talking to you guys for 4 years now. It's possible I mentioned that I did an archaeological dig in France when I was a young woman and excavated an Iron Age burial ground of Celtic culture. And, textiles disintegrate. They don't stay generally in the archaeological record until, quite recently. Or if there are certain conditions that inhibit bacteria breaking down the textiles. So, but there are ways to find it to find out what kind of spinning styles and weaving styles people used and how that relates to where they came from. And what I love in this book, Women's Work, The First 20,000 Years, is she talks about how we can trace through language and languages that have changed more isolated languages, how we can see what people had and what technologies they used, because you don't have a name for things that you don't know about. Anyway, very fascinating. And yeah, so it brought back to mind the time I spent on an archaeological dig. If I'm able to, I will insert pictures. No, maybe I'll just show them. I actually got out the picture album where these were. I just have to share this. It's my husband and I. A million billion years ago. Yes, he was cooking in Paris a long time ago. At any rate, yeah, when I say it was a burial ground, yeah, it was a burial ground. And those are the torques, the burial jewelry, bracelet. They had fibulas, the pins that pinned their clothing as well. And this was a one I worked on right here. Yeah, this was the pot that this girl was buried with. She was a young girl, probably on the cusp of adolescence, not quite there, based on her teeth. And this over here were ribs and a bit of a ribs and a fetal pig that she was buried with for sustenance as she went on her journey to the afterlife. And see if I have a picture of me. Yeah, there's me. Here I am digging. Yep, unearthing the torque around her head, around her neck. Really intense summer. And I can just tell you that the dreams, there she is again. There's a close-up of the ribs. And this was like animal protein. These were animal cuts. She had seashells, she had amber beads. This is north of Paris, near Soissons. And this was a picture of where I slept. It was literally a barn. Yeah. So these were 2 English girls I worked with. So yeah, very fond memories, but this book is bringing back a lot of memories of that time, and yeah, having nightmares about the inhabitants of the graves, and yeah. So yeah, it was a Celtic society, which, you know, I didn't really understand at the time that, you know, Celtic is not a type of people or a race of people. It's a culture. So they have a similar way of doing things, not necessarily a similar background, but it's ideas. So what their houses were like, what their clothes were like, what their technologies were like. And so those people originated like Eastern and Central Europe, and then spread west to what we now consider to be Celtic areas, Celtic language, you know, the northwest of France and Brittany, and northwest of Spain and Ireland and places like that. It was really a way of doing things, i.e. a culture, and not necessarily people who all originated in the same area. So yeah, so at any rate, very fascinating book, highly recommend it. And until I chat with you guys next time with my fiber students, take care. So it's me again. Oh, and my friend Alice has joined us. And I just gave her a half a peanut. Sit down. Stop smiling. Sit down. Oh, little darling. So we wanted to show you one other thing that we forgot. Well, I forgot. So, oh gosh. Stay. Wait. Okay, come back. So, dyeing. I did some dyeing. And guys, it didn't work out. So I went to Whole Foods before Super Bowl weekend, talked to the produce manager and said, I know you guys make a lot of guacamole. What do you do with the avocado pits? And they just go in the trash. So I said, you know, I'd really love to have them, or at least some of them. So he said, no problem. Come at this time. I'll give them to you. So I came. I got the avocado pits and skins. I washed the pits. I discarded the skins. That was just too much washing to deal with. I ended up with maybe 7 pounds of avocado pits, which make a lovely ballet pink. And I dyed my pound of Romney hand-spun. I hate it. I really hate it. It is not as pink as I would like. It's more of a peach. And I've dyed with avocado pits before, and I was expecting better. But I'm not done. In for a penny, in for a pound. You know, I was really worried about felting this, and I think the process did change the yarn a bit. But I'm going to, I used 2 pounds of avocado pits for the pound of yarn, and it just needs more color. So I'm doing it again. This weekend I will be hammering avocado pits open, and then steeping them and making a dye. And then I'll be throwing the yarn back in there. I don't think that I will cook the yarn again this time. I will just see what happens with just hopefully the avocado staining the yarn some more. I mordanted the yarn with alum. I followed the instructions in the Modern Natural Dyer. So yeah, this is gonna get worked on some more. But I wanted to share, and I wanted to show Alice's sweet, sweet face, and she's now just trolling for crumbs under the table. So we'll see you next time.